The day I walked into the courthouse, I thought I was about to lose everything I had spent 15 years building. My husband stood on the opposite side of the courtroom with the confidence of a man who believed the future already belonged to him. His smile never faded, his expensive suit looked perfectly pressed, and every person watching seemed convinced that he had already won. But hidden inside a sealed envelope was a DNA test that would expose a truth no one had imagined. Before that day was over, the courtroom would fall silent, lives would change forever, and the man who thought he had everything under control would discover that the greatest deception had never been mine. Before we continue, if you believe kindness is never wasted and that the truth always finds its way into the light, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who loves emotional true-life dramas, and subscribe to Tales Maybe so you never miss another unforgettable story. Morning sunlight poured through the courthouse windows, painting bright squares across the polished floor. Outside, people hurried to work, children laughed as they walked toward school buses, and the city carried on as if it were just another ordinary day. For me, however, every heartbeat felt heavier than the last. I was 39 years old, carrying nothing but a small folder filled with documents and memories that no judge could ever read. My name was Maren, and until a year earlier I had believed I lived inside a happy marriage. I met my husband, Nolan Mercer, when we were both young professionals struggling to build our careers. We rented a tiny apartment, counted every dollar before grocery shopping, and dreamed about one day owning a home with a garden full of flowers. Those dreams slowly came true. Nolan's business expanded while I became a respected elementary school librarian. We bought a beautiful house on a quiet street where neighbors greeted each other every morning. From the outside, our lives looked almost perfect. What no one saw was how success slowly changed Nolan. The humble man who once celebrated simple victories became obsessed with appearances, expensive cars, exclusive parties, and impressing wealthy investors. He spent less time at home and more time chasing opportunities that always seemed just beyond reach. I told myself every marriage experienced difficult seasons. I believed patience and love could repair almost anything. Then came the day everything cracked apart. It began with a phone call from a hospital asking me to confirm emergency contact information after Nolan had been involved in a minor traffic accident. He wasn't seriously injured, but when I arrived, a nurse accidentally handed me paperwork meant for someone else who had arrived with him. The woman listed as his emergency contact wasn't me. She was someone named Serena Vale. My confusion quickly turned into heartbreak as pieces began falling into place. Late-night meetings. Weekend business trips. Secretive phone calls. Everything I had ignored suddenly made painful sense. Nolan admitted he had been hiding major financial decisions from me, but he insisted the rest was only misunderstanding. Even then I wanted to believe him. Love often convinces us to defend the people who hurt us most. Months later I discovered he had quietly transferred family investments into accounts I knew nothing about. Our savings had been divided without my knowledge. Legal papers followed. Lawyers replaced conversations. Our home became colder with every passing week until I finally moved into a modest apartment across town. Friends picked sides. Some believed Nolan because he was charming and successful. Others quietly supported me, bringing homemade meals or simply sitting beside me during long evenings when silence felt unbearable. My older sister, Celeste, reminded me that truth doesn't always arrive quickly, but it always leaves footprints. During the divorce proceedings, Nolan presented himself as the responsible husband who had sacrificed everything for our family while painting me as emotionally unstable and financially irresponsible. Listening to those accusations felt like watching someone rewrite 15 years of my life with a black marker. My attorney, Evelyn Cross, remained calm through every hearing. She never promised miracles. Instead, she focused on facts. While reviewing financial records, she noticed irregular payments connected to medical testing performed months earlier. Those records eventually led to something neither of us expected. A private laboratory had completed a confidential DNA analysis requested by Nolan himself. At first, we assumed it related to extended family matters or inheritance questions. But when the court approved access because the testing had become connected to disputed financial claims, a far more complicated picture began to emerge. Apparently, Nolan had questioned biological relationships involving a child whose future affected millions of dollars held inside a family trust established by his late grandfather. If the biological connection proved false, significant portions of the inheritance would legally shift according to the trust's original terms. The courtroom on the day of the final hearing felt strangely peaceful despite the tension inside every heart present. Outside, birds perched on blooming trees under a bright blue sky. Sunshine reflected from nearby office buildings, filling the room with warm daylight that contrasted sharply with everyone's anxious expressions. Nolan entered wearing complete confidence. Reporters weren't present, but several relatives and close friends attended because rumors surrounding the inheritance dispute had spread throughout the family. He greeted everyone with practiced charm, shaking hands and smiling as though he were attending a business conference rather than the closing chapter of his marriage. I kept my attention on the judge's bench, refusing to meet his eyes. I had spent too many nights crying to give him the satisfaction of seeing my fear. As evidence was presented, financial records confirmed that Nolan had secretly hidden assets during the marriage. His attorney argued they represented protected investments established before our wedding. Evelyn calmly introduced banking documents showing otherwise. The judge listened carefully, asking detailed questions that slowly weakened Nolan's carefully constructed story. Then came the sealed DNA report. The courtroom grew unusually quiet as the envelope was opened. Papers rustled softly. Even the air conditioning seemed louder than before. The results revealed that the biological relationship Nolan had confidently relied upon during months of legal maneuvering was not supported by genetic evidence. His assumptions about inheritance rights collapsed immediately. More importantly, investigators uncovered that he had knowingly submitted misleading financial declarations based on claims he had never fully verified. No one spoke for several long seconds. Nolan's expression changed from certainty to complete disbelief. He reread the report again and again, searching for a different answer that simply wasn't there. His attorney whispered urgently while flipping through documents, but every explanation led back to the same unavoidable conclusion. The judge ordered additional review of the financial disclosures. Hidden transfers, questionable withdrawals, and misleading statements suddenly carried far greater legal significance than anyone initially expected. I didn't feel victorious. I felt exhausted. There was no celebration waiting for me. No magical moment erased the sleepless nights or restored the trust that had disappeared forever. Watching another person's world collapse, even someone who had deeply hurt me, wasn't satisfying. It was simply sad. After a short recess, the judge delivered the final decisions. Assets would be redistributed fairly according to verified financial records rather than incomplete disclosures. Penalties would apply where intentional omissions had occurred. Independent administrators would oversee remaining trust matters until every disputed claim had been properly resolved. As people quietly left the courtroom, sunlight still streamed through the tall windows. The world outside remained beautifully ordinary. Office workers carried coffee cups. Parents pushed strollers through nearby parks. Delivery trucks rolled down busy streets. Life never pauses for heartbreak. I walked down the courthouse steps expecting to feel lighter. Instead, I realized healing isn't something handed to us by judges or legal documents. Healing begins the moment we decide our future matters more than our past. The months that followed weren't easy. I accepted a position leading literacy programs for children across several local schools. Every afternoon I watched young readers discover confidence one page at a time. Their excitement slowly reminded me that hope grows quietly, often where we least expect it. I also planted a small flower garden outside my apartment. Every morning before work, I watered tiny seedlings beneath bright sunshine. At first they looked fragile. Weeks later colorful blossoms filled the space with life. Watching those flowers bloom became a gentle reminder that broken seasons are never permanent. One afternoon I received an unexpected handwritten letter from Nolan. He didn't ask for another chance. He didn't blame anyone else. For the first time in years, he accepted responsibility for the choices that had destroyed our marriage. He admitted that pride had slowly become more important than honesty and that chasing status had cost him the people who genuinely loved him. I folded the letter carefully and placed it inside a drawer. Forgiveness, I learned, isn't reopening a closed door. Sometimes it's simply choosing not to carry bitterness into tomorrow. 2 years later, I stood once again beneath warm morning sunshine, this time outside a newly opened community library built through donations from local families. Children raced through the front entrance laughing with excitement. Parents smiled while volunteers handed out free books. Looking around, I realized my life no longer revolved around the chapter that had once broken me. It revolved around purpose. The courtroom had not been the ending of my story. It had been the beginning. If this story touched your heart, reminded you that honesty matters, or encouraged you to keep believing that brighter days are possible even after life's hardest moments, please like this video, share it with someone who may need a little hope today, and subscribe to Tales Maybe for more emotional stories that stay with you long after the final words. Before we end, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment with one word that describes what this story made you feel. Your words may encourage someone else who is quietly facing their own difficult season. As I watched children disappear into the library carrying books almost too large for their small hands, I smiled for the first time in a very long while. The pain had not defined my future. The truth had not only changed a courtroom, it had changed me. And sometimes the greatest victory isn't proving someone else wrong. It's finding the courage to rebuild your life with kindness still alive in your heart, knowing that every sunrise offers another chance to begin again.